driving sustainability as a competitive advantage in terms of how we are going to really take the advantage of ESG, as we call it, the environmental, social, and governance. All of you are aware about it by now because it has gained a lot of momentum all throughout. And this is no more a good to have type of a philosophy, I would say. It is now a must have. And why it is a must have, we will come to that. The good part is that you'll get to hear a lot of panelists just after this, which is on the sustainable practices. And thanks for really organizing the panel discussion because you'll get to hear diverse views from different industries going forward. I'll just give you a brief heads up in terms of what is driving the landscape in India region. It is why I'm saying that it is now not good to have, but a must have. There has been a lot of regulatory shifts that have happened. And primarily, if you see the SEBI guidelines, and this is where I would really compliment the government of India, specifically the Security and Exchange Board of India, who have been very aggressive in terms of their bringing the BRSA reporting. BRSA reporting to the top listed companies right now, but that is going to expand for sure in the times to come. And when it is talking about the BRSA, it is not talking only about the entity per se, it is talking about the entire value chain. The supplier base, the customer base, all across the value chain. And that is something which is very unique that SEBI has really trying to really bring on the table. It is going to be mandated, it has to be assured. The first 2 years are not really that strict in terms of disclosing on the parameters that we're talking about, but definitely going forward, it is going to be really serious when it comes down to the complete assurance part of it. And why I'm saying that, why government of India needs to be complemented, because if you really look into US, whom we look up to, their SEC is here to really put this type of a format or a framework in place in terms of really asking for mandatory disclosures from the organizations. And that is where SEBI has really gone one step beyond in terms of really bringing the entire value chain as an ecosystem towards sustainability. We were talking about Make in India, which Mr. Goswami was mentioning in terms of the Make in India. Believe me, to export into Europe, we have many regulations that are coming up, which is going to be very, very critical. They have started off with the energy intensive sectors like cement, steel manufacturing, but definitely it is going to expand for other industries as well. So in India, we as industry leaders, we need to really take cognizance of the fact that we need to get into that process of compliance with the requirements that are going to come up as a part of the European Union CBAM. The asks are pretty steep than where we stand today, because it is asking not only for disclosures, but at the same time going forward, our reduction plan with respect to 2030 and 2050, plan 2050, where we are talking about net zero targets, where all industries have to be net zero. What it essentially means is that we will be carbon neutral all across our value chain, right from the tier 2 supply to our customers. Are we really creating products which are aversive in terms of decarbonizing strategy? And therefore, it becomes extremely important for all of us to really rise up to this occasion and get into that mode of creating the decarbonizing strategy all across the value chain. And that is exactly what you are going to hear in the panelist discussion as well, the green supply chain that is lined up for today. Other than that, I am not going to all of those important. The top two are BRSR and European CBAM, which is very, very critical for all of us. But all across, there are definitely lot of emphasis in terms of the regulatory shifts. The industry is going to impose in some format or the other, and we have to really gear up for that. If you recall, 3 to 5 years back, when our Prime Minister exactly rolled out what is called the ZED drive for MSMEs, zero effect with zero defect. The intent was very clear at that point in time, but it was still more voluntary than mandatory. Now it is becoming slowly mandatory, and therefore we need to really rise up to this occasion. The value chain focus is something which is very, very different now, because earlier the focus was primarily what I do within my premises. That stands still. It does not change. But are we really taking care of the entire value chain? And that is where the value chain partners, especially in the MSME sectors, when they are supplying to their OEMs, because the OEMs primarily are the listed entities in the top 100, top 1000. they have to go in for the disclosures when it comes down to the annual reporting. Now, when they go into that annual reporting, they have to go back to their tier 1 and tier 2 and really work with them closely in terms of ensuring that the total commitment towards the net zero that we're talking about for Planet 2050 is really achieved in terms of the milestone growth that we're talking. So value chain focus is something which is also driving the landscape in terms of the ESG as we talk about. Ambitious goals, big, hairy, audacious goals as we call it. We are seeing 20, although government of India is talking about 2070 as the net zero emissions targets, but 2050 is something because most of our leading organizations are into exports. And if we are into exports, we cannot take 2070 as the leverage. We have to comply by 2050 because otherwise we will not be in a position to export our products out of India. And that is where we have to sensitize our entire value chain that this is something which we have to really take care of. As long as domestic market is concerned, you might be doing well with your 2070 targets. But if you're going for exports, you have to really gear up and align yourself better. And when I was visiting few of the OEMs across the India region over here, I was really excited to see that I'm not going to name those OEMs. They are taking aggressive targets of 2040 and 2045. Believe me, that is the level of targets that are being set. Why I'm mentioning out over here? Because the entire audience out over here at the back end, in some format or the other, is going to be impacted with those ambitious targets. Be as a supplier to the OEMs, be OEMs by themselves, or be a customer to a product, end product as an end user. So entire value chain is going to be impacted in some format or the other, and therefore it is better rise to the occasion right now. Customer requirements, as our earlier speakers were also already mentioning, yes, the customer requirements are shifting very fast. I really like that example. What used to be an ask, what used to be a luxury is now an ask for the children in terms of really having a gaming platform on the car itself. And that is what is happening. What used to be a privilege is now a requirement from day to day life. I remember the days when the new mobiles came. It used to be a status symbol, right? If you really see that Reliance Real Gym product, I remember the 330 rupees package that used to come along with the phone. That used to be a luxury at that point in time. But today, mobile is inevitable. It is imperative. You have to have a mobile with you. You cannot live without a mobile. It is a device through which the entire connectivity is depending on you. So that is where the customers are now shifting in terms of the end use consumer preferences. And therefore, it is extremely important that when we are developing those solutions, are we keeping in mind the point of sustainability? I often get to hear questions because Cummins in India as well as globally, we are moving into alternative technologies, and one of them is battery. Every conference here and there, I get to hear that question being asked. Have you ever thought about the battery getting charged? Is it green energy? Are you really creating a green ecosystem? Shifting to battery might be not consuming fossil fuel in the vehicle, but charging the battery itself with a fossil fuel powered backend energy is not a complete game change, right? So are we having that green energy charging in the battery that is complete green change? What we're talking. And then the obvious question, what happens to the battery when it reaches its end of life? Are we really taking that into cognizance in terms of how to dispose that without taking the care of the battery going into the landfill? Is there a recycling process established? These questions have already started coming in the mind of the consumers before they are actually taking a buying decision. That what do I do with the battery once the end of life is reached? And that is where every organization like who are already getting into this business need to start thinking in terms of not selling a battery car right now, but what happens to the end of life? End of useful life is over, and therefore, what do I do with that battery? What do I do with the vehicle? Is there a vehicle scrappage policy? Is there a battery scrappage policy? And all of those things really start building in the mind of the consumer, which drives their buying decisions. And that is what is very unique. Coming down to the other part of the sustainability, yes, definitely it has a brand equity and brand motion. Although in India it is not that popular yet, believe me, globally investors do take a decision of investing in an organization unless they see the sustainability and ESG risk rating of that company. And that is going to come very fast to India as well when investors are concerned. They are also going to really look into whether my investment is going into a company which is not only environmentally sustainable but economically sustainable as well. So when we are talking about sustainability, it is not only ESG, it is beyond that. It is economic sustainability which is getting supported with the environmental, social and governance commitments. Coming down to the social part of it, yes, definitely that is something which is very, very important, although there are very specific mandates in terms of minimum 2 to 2.5% investment in terms of the CSR activities to organizations who are listed in the NSE and BSE. But we get to see multiple organizations really working in terms of the social equity. And that is something where India is really picking up very fast. We know for sure that even our MSMEs, we have seen adopting small villages, taking up initiatives in terms of upscaling schools in their local community. That is something where India is really moving fast, and that needs to be, the entire industry needs to be complemented for that. So what is ESG going to deliver? It is something which is a value creation, and that is exactly very important to understand that we are talking about ESG not only in terms of disclosure as a report or disclosure for the public, but what is exactly important is that ESG does help you to create value in the organization. I'm really a fan of the six capital approach. A long back, I'm not going to the depth of it, but there is a six capital approach of IIRC, as we call it, the Indian International Body, who are actually in parallel with the GRI. They have come up with something called that six capital approach, and that is what is a validation approach. I'm really fan, and we try to drive that not only in Cummins, in our own organization, but also for our managing partners. Investors and stakeholder engagement is something which is extremely critical when it gets down to ESG, because unless you get to hear the right voices, you capture the needs and expectations, you will not be able to create the right value proposition that you are supposed to deliver for your stakeholders. If you are into the journey of sustainability, you get a fast mover advantage. Believe me, when you are the first mover in terms of adoption of the technology or in terms of adoption of the regulatory shifts that are coming up, you will get into the hotspot of taking a decision and also get a decision making opportunity in terms of creating the strategy for that particular product. A classic example is the CPCB4 Plus or the BS6 when the engines move from the previous emission norms to the next emission norms. Believe me, the engine manufacturers in India had a lot to say, including Cummins, oil, which Mr. Musoi was mentioning his tenure well. So, oil and all of these companies did have a say in terms of formulating and the regulation in the system, because they were the fast movers in terms of adapting that technology. What happens is that not in the fast movers, someone that does the regulations framework for you, and you have to just abide by it. It might not be in the capability of yours, but in that case, you are forced to adapt. But if you're the fast mover, you get the advantage of really getting into the framework creation. Enterprise risk management, which is mandated as a part of sustainability, and it really helps you. Believe me, the uncertainties that we have seen in the very recent past, post-COVID industries have been a lot more agile, I would say, in terms of really trying to address the supply chains, because that was a hard lesson learned. And we realized that yes, we need to be really resilient when it comes down to the supply chain design in terms of the entire processes that we talk about. But that has really triggered what we call as an enterprise risk management to be more serious. It is not only in terms of operational risk that we talk about now, we also talk about in terms of the geopolitical risks, in terms of the other risks that is extremely important when it comes down to the future requirements, the regulatory shifts that are going to come. And that is something which is extremely important, which ESG drives, because it prepares you for the future. You know what potential risks are going to hit you back, and therefore you tune your strategy in that direction so that you are well prepared for the future to come. Operational efficiencies and cost improvements. The obvious outcome is definitely this operational efficiencies improvement. Believe me, there are multiple tools which ESG and sustainability promotes. I'll give you an example of building management system, the BMS itself. The When you actually look at the business management, building management systems, the BMS technology, when you look into the dashboard out over there, you get to see which of your HVAC system is actually consuming higher energy, which of your motors are the power reserves in the system. You have a dashboard in front of you, the ignition platform. That I'm not trying to promote ignition, don't mind me saying that, but I'm just giving an example of one of the technologies that is available in the market. Ignition platform brings in all those visibility in front of you as a process flow. And you actually get to see schematically if your motor is running excess, if your HVAC system is running excess, and companies who are seriously driven ESG, they have been able to really address their managed expenses. The bottom line has improved quite a bit. We have seen almost a 1 to 1.5% improvement on the managed expense on an annualized basis. And that is pretty big money when it comes down to annualized if you see the contribution coming out. So it has a direct impact on your bottom line. And last but not the least is how do you really retain the talent? Because a sustainable organization always has a good policies in place. The societal pillar also takes care of the employees, not only of the outside communities. And that is where I truly like the example which Mr. Goswami mentioned out over here. Those were the days when all ESGs were not that mandatory, but still he had taken the care of in terms of getting the dinner out from Blue Diamond. And that is something what is extremely important, the caring part of the employees in terms of whether the employee comes in and goes back home, the same employee, without any stress, without any accidents, without any incidents happening to the person. That is something which is extremely important, and definitely believe me, whenever new generations are taking up jobs these days, the first thing that they definitely ask is there a work-life balance? Is there a 5 days working? I have seen people rejecting, college graduates rejecting offer of Cummins. And I know hesitation in sharing that. Rejecting Cummins when we got to hear that there are evening shifts for US clients. And they have to manage the morning shifts. And that was the feedback that we took for ourselves. We split the teams thereafter. So believe me, people are choosy in their home. Today, people are choosy. They have options and they're choosy. So retaining talent is something which is extremely, extremely important. And ESG and sustainability does support that in a big way. So coming down quickly in terms of the deployment and governance. So quickly in terms of deployment, what is extremely important to understand is that are we putting up a governance structure in place? And sustainability is something which is very, very important that it is a top-down approach. Believe me, if the vision is there from the leadership, it gets percolated downwards, definitely the things move faster. And therefore, you need to have the right governance structure right from top to bottom. Then I mentioned about the quick adoption in terms of the regulatory and the compliance part of it. I'm not going to the depth of it. What is also extremely important is that how we integrate the ESG strategy into the corporate strategy. Today, it is still in industry two strategies standing apart, which is not fair. Which is not fair in the sense that we have not been able to integrate the ESG strategy into the corporate strategy. The good part, what I'm seeing as a shift in the industry is that senior leadership ESOPs are getting linked to sustainability KPIs. I'm not sure whether this is a bit of a harsh on the leadership team, but I am seeing industries are adapting to this, where they are exactly giving some weightage when it is and that same thing happened with safety when we actually started the journey with safety recall. Any accident in the plant, The increment used to be stopped at the topmost leader. The plant manager was not given an increment in many organizations. And that drove that, I would say, the priority in the mind of those leadership team. I'm not sure still, there are pushbacks. Of course, there are pushbacks that whether we can mandate this, I'm not sure still, but I've seen organizations are doing this, and the shift is very fast happening. The leading organizations are doing this, in fact, trying to link the KPIs of sustainability with the payouts that they have for the leadership. The industry is also catching up in the area of sustainability. There are multiple softwares now available, like which gives you an end-to-end connected package. The primary importance to understand is that are we adopting the right tools and the systems which gives you an end-to-end connected, transparent visibility in terms of the ESG parameters that we're talking about. And that is where you need to pick up the right tool and how do you really ensure that your manual interventions are minimized with the automated processes, or automated set of processes. That would definitely help us to really make the report seamless, eliminate manual errors, and be more particular in terms of the reporting, I would say reporting ethics. I would not say ethics, data ethics, but definitely unwantedly sometimes we make mistakes in terms of the data. That also gets actually addressed to this systemic approach and adoption of the right tools. So with a very clear deployment strategy, with the right set of governance, with the right set of tools, with the right set of people, and the right set of capable people in terms of the capability building, we're definitely going to hit the numbers that we're talking about for 2030 and 2050. And I urge each one of you to really be a part of the sustainability journey. This is a new area, but it's definitely going to be very interesting and exciting.